That looks far worse than that. Looks can be deceiving. Dissolved in this, it's very, very acidic, but it's absolutely loaded with toxic levels of metals. This gives us some clue. This is a reason why there's nothing growing around here. But water is really good at mobilizing pollutants in here, and that's gone down and it enters the Turon River system, joins the Macquarie River, and it becomes part of the Murray-Darling. There's almost no life here. There's a really tough algae growing here. There's always something in nature that can exploit contaminated conditions. But overall, just downstream from here, would you drink this? It could be the last thing you ever did. But one of the big ones, one of the big things we see with a lot of these mines is the zinc. Zinc is dangerous at 10. It's coming out of that mine now at 240,000. What's your reaction to that?
It's horrifying and it's scary that people are swimming and catching fish in the water just downstream of this. And to think that zinc is toxic at even very low levels to aquatic life, it's just gobsmacking that it's been allowed to just come into our waterways like that. From a mine that's shut down and just been forgotten about, it's astounding.
So Clarence Colliery, you can see behind me, has been operating in the upper parts of the Blue Mountains for over 40 years now. They mine coal ore from longwall mining, so you can see a small part of that behind me in the landscape, but the majority of the workings are actually underneath us and throughout the landscape around us.
Now, the land below us is state forest. It's largely natural, but below our feet, several hundred metres, are coal mines. This area is being mined. And the river that's flowing down through here is the Wollongambie River. Its waters pure and clean and full of a diversity of life. So these waters flowing down here, this is the lifeblood of one of the biggest rivers flowing through the Greater Blue Mountains World Heritage Area. The mine has been going for a bit over 40 years in this ancient landscape that's been eroded and developed over millions of years. And this has caused dramatic, cataclysmic pollution of what you would think would be a really protected waterway.
And it may well be the only World Heritage Area that is the recipient of coal mine wastewater into the receiving waterway. Behind me you can see the large dam where the wastewater is discharged to out of Clarence Colliery, and then the spillway that enters the Wollongambie River. So when the mine workings get inundated by groundwater, they mobilise a lot of heavy metals due to the sulphur in the coal ore. Those heavy metals then become soluble within the water, and they're often discharged into the local waterway. Here at Clarence Colliery they do some treatment of the water and then discharge it into the waterway. So since 2013 I've been investigating the impacts of the wastewater on the Wollongambie River, and we've looked at water column pollutants, sediment pollutants, and even the bioaccumulation within animals that live in the river, and then also flora that grows alongside the river.
These waters around the Sydney and Blue Mountains area, this is some of the best water quality. Very, very low salt. We've just checked the oxygen, heaps of oxygen, cool, clear, fast-flowing waters, and there's abundant animal life living here. So we're up the top of the watershed of the Wollongambie River, and it drains down here, and about a kilometre and a half or so, it flows from State Forest into the World Heritage Area. And from there, goes on a journey down through Wallamine National Park, into the Colo River, and part of the Hawkesbury Nepean. And this beautiful, clean, life-filled river, everything changes 100 metres down from here. So what I'm standing in here is mine drainage. There's a natural flow here, but most of this, probably 95%, is due to about 100 metres from here. The Clarence Colliery is discharging its waste. All that accumulated water that's mixed up with the coal, the sulphur, and the coal washery the contaminants are flushed away. So this is essentially used as a waste disposal. It's a small tributary that flows into the Wollongambie River about 50 metres from where we're standing, and then the contamination plume from this, it's loaded with salts, minerals and metals. And the complex chemical changes here are essentially, it's like a cluster of contamination.
The insect communities are remaining impaired, and this is due to contaminants that are locked into the sediment from long time mining and discharge of wastewater, and that is still holding back the recovery of insects.
The fish and the tiny little insects that live in our rivers are being exposed to these toxic pollutants. Even at levels that are quite low, this can damage these fragile ecosystems and animals. When you look at the food chain, people are catching fish that come from these rivers which are in a polluted state. When you consume the contaminated tissue of these animals, it's making its way into your body.
Lay me down when the night falls, give our bones when the time calls. Oh, my brother, my sister, we all go down to the river. To the river, down to the river.
We are 22 kilometres downstream of the Clarence coal mine that discharges its waste. And where it discharges it, it makes up about 90% of the flow. Even down here, we could see that a substantial proportion of this flow was impaired, with exactly the combination of pollutants coming out of that mine. So the plume, compared to all other mines I look at, the plume, that's the level of contamination that comes downstream. It was still harming aquatic life in the river here. So we did water quality sampling, we had samples tested, we looked at the invertebrate life at different sites coming down, and we shared these results with the community, the Blue Mountains community.
People in the society became aware through some work that Western Sydney University were doing that all was not right in the water. What we found out were that there were high levels of metals, that there was high levels of salinity, and that the licence wasn't tight enough, wasn't protecting it, and there was an opportunity through the EPA to actually have a say and to get involved.
The community got behind this and basically wrote to the EPA more than 100 letters demanding action to clean up the mine waste coming out of the Clarence Colliery.
And over 130 of our members wrote submissions to that, asking for the water quality to be improved.
And you know what? They did. And the EPA did. They tightened the licence. The EPA formally told Clarence, you've got to reduce the contamination level, which requires a higher level of treatment.
So this new licence, which recently came into play around about 12 months ago, has had cascading effects downstream in the World Heritage Area, where we've found that life is rebounding compared to that was there in 2013.
And we're actually watching life come back to this severely impaired river. So this gives us hope. Pollution has dropped. We're getting less concentration of the nasties, nickel and zinc in particular. But what proves that it's good is the ecosystem. It's bouncing back, it's flourishing. The animals don't lie. They either live or die, and they're living, they're breeding, they're doing well, and that life in the river is just perfect for the conservation value of this important area.
The insect communities are recovering, they're bouncing back. We've measured wide abundance and diversity within sites here. So the key into reducing pollution impacts and restoring the ecosystem is behind the regulation of the mine wastewater. The insect communities will have a chance to come back as there is less contaminants in the river.
It's bursting with life. We put our net in here, the animals are jumping out of the net. And it's not just a few, it's a diverse range, all different types of species and niches, but they're in big numbers. And they've improved, they've lifted enormously since the EPA got the mine to improved the treatment, and the pollution has reduced.
So very pleased that some improvements now many years on from that are beginning to be seen in that river, and that's a great thing for the community to know.
What's great about the changes to the licence is it shows that in the future at other coal mines we can continually change the way we treat the water and improve the licensing system to improve the health of the receiving waterway and have a much better outcome for the environment that the protection licence is protecting.
It's not all over Red Rover, and it's not just a done complete that we're just going to pollute more and more. That if we direct our activities properly, we can actually be a part of the rescue of this country rather than being the parasite that we've sort of come to be.
And we really need to move forward and just look to the future and do what's best for future generations. That really is to restore what has been damaged and prevent it from happening in the future.
Starry nights is what